Odin Ash 12, Shake 12. Developed at Teskay BSOO for Russia's Federal Security Service. The Ash 12-7, often written Shake 12, was purpose-built for urban operations where short lines of sight and over-penetration concerns dominated the brief. It fires the 12, 7x55mm family in several documented loadings, including light ball, duplex, armor-piercing, and heavy subsonic projectiles. Detachable box magazines of 10 and 20 rounds have been photographed, with 20 most common in open-source imagery. Mechanically, it uses a bullpup layout in a polymer shell over a stamped steel receiver and operates by short recoil rather than a gas system. The barrel and bolt recoil together briefly and then unlock, with reports pointing to a rotating multi-lug bolt. Muzzle devices range from brakes to quick-detach suppressors, and sighting options include carry-handle diopters and flat-top rails. In the field, its heavy but relatively slow subsonic impulse favors control at room distances, while practical employment sits in the 100 to 300 meter band. The cyclic rate is typically cited between about 500 and 750 rounds per minute. Sustained automatic fire is possible, but tactically limited by projectile energy and magazine capacity. Ergonomically, it behaves like most bullpup's compact overall length for its barrel, rear-biased balance, and controls located aft of the pistol grip. Its role is best understood as a short-range, barrier-stopping carbine that trades reach for terminal effect. Compared to American big-bore concepts such as 5.0 Beowulf and .458 SOCOM, it pursues the same close-range philosophy with a different case and a state-designed load suite. Game portrayals increase magazine options and lower the cyclic rate. Actual fielded guns run faster and remain tied to limited 10 and 20 round magazines. Type 25, QBZ-95. China's QBZ-95 program produced a compact bullpup family around a proprietary 8x42mm cartridge, replacing the Type 81 series from the late 1990s onward. Design work ran from the late 1980s into the mid-1990s under lead designer Duo Yingxian, with production beginning in 1995 and first public showings soon after. Chambering centered on the DBP-87 and later DBP-105 8x42mm rounds, with 30-round magazines standard for the rifle and 75/80ths round drums issued with the QJB light support variant. Export versions, designated QBZ-97, were chambered in 56x45 and adapted for markets where NATO ammunition is standard. The action is a short-stroke gas piston with a rotating bolt and a striker-type fire control group arranged for the bullpup layout. The baseline cyclic rate sits around 650 rounds per minute. In service use, the rifle's practical point target range is on the order of 400 meters with the standard 18-inch class barrel, while the shorter 95B carbine prioritizes confined spaces. Routine field maintenance is conventional for a piston-operated rifle, and televised trials have shown tolerance to water immersion. The major user-facing changes over time were ergonomic, not fundamental mechanical overhauls. Accessories evolved from a carrying handle dovetail to flat-top rail conversions and optics options. While grenade launcher fits appear on certain variants, the family is now being succeeded by the QBZ-191 in PLA service. In game depictions, the rifle is often assigned a far higher cyclic rate and simplified handling. Actual QBZ-95s run slower. And early control placement and reload mechanics reflected the typical bullpup learning curve. ACR Magpul Masada, Bushmaster, and Remington ACR. The adaptive combat rifle started life as the Magpul Masada in 2006, an attempt to blend proven ideas AR-18 short-stroke gas, G36/XM8 polymer receivers, SCAR-style upper and charging arrangements, and AR pattern fire control familiarity into a modular infantry platform. In 2008, Magpul licensed production to Bushmaster for civilian models and to Remington for select fire military law enforcement guns, with public showings at SHOT and Army industry events. Chambering began with 5 56x45 using Stan AG magazines, with company-supported conversions for 6.8 SPC and 300 BLK and a 450 Bushmaster option in the Bushmaster line. Mechanically, the ACR uses a short-stroke piston and a rotating multi-lug bolt that locks into the barrel extension. Ambidextrous controls are comprehensive safety selector, magazine release, and bolt catch and the non-reciprocating charging handle can be set on either side. In use, the select fire Remington pattern cycles near 700 rounds per minute. Practical accuracy benefits from free-floated barrels and a straight-line stock geometry that handles recoil predictably. Barrel choices spanned PDW lengths through 18.5-inch DMR profiles, with suppressor use accommodated via threaded muzzles and adjustable gas settings where fitted. Field stripping is pin-based. Sub-assemblies remain captive for straightforward maintenance, and the piston system reduces receiver fouling compared to direct gas guns. Observed operational use included small deployments such as Polish Military Intelligence Service personnel, compared with peers like FN SCAR or piston ARs such as the HK416. The ACR's distinctive traits were its ambidextrous control scheme and, on civilian models, genuinely quick barrel swaps without tools. Game portrayals often exaggerate the fire rate and suppress recoil to near-static levels. Real guns are controllable but still behave like a 5.56 carbine under sustained fire. BK-57 AKU-94 bullpup. Unlike a factory rifle, the AKU-94 is a commercial furniture kit that converts a conventional AK into a bullpup. The core long-stroke gas piston system and rotating bolt remain unchanged. The kit relocates the grip and trigger forward and links them to the original fire control group through a long mechanical linkage. Production history sits in the civilian aftermarket with a reputation for needing user tuning. Chambering and magazines depend entirely on the donor rifle. The conversion keeps the AK's rock and lock magazine interface and its standard sighting geometry, unless altered by the user. Out of the box, many kits include raised sight blocks to suit the new cheek weld, and users often report play in these assemblies unless reinforced. In practice, the conversion shortens overall length and shifts balance rearward while introducing a heavier, springy trigger. Magazine changes are tighter due to reduced clearance at the magwell, and left-handed use is problematic because the reciprocating charging handle remains near the face. Owners frequently improve the platform by shoring up the rear sight base, deleting the front sight when using a micro red dot, and carefully polishing sear surfaces to reduce linkage drag. Field maintenance mirrors any standard AK top cover-off. Recoil spring and carrier out, with routine inspection of the linkage and mounting screws specific to the kit. As a concept, it trades the AK's familiar ergonomics for compactness, and its performance envelope follows the donor rifle's barrel length and chambering. Game portrayals that present a smooth handling, generic rifle gloss over the conversion's idiosyncrasies and the sensitivity to installation quality. RPD Ruchnoi Pulemio Detyaryova. Vasily Detyaryov's RPD was designed in 1943-44 around the then new 7.62 by 39 mm M43 intermediate cartridge and adopted post-war as a squad light machine gun. A 100-round non-disintegrating segmented steel belt feeds the gun, typically housed in a drum clipped to the receiver, belt segments, 50-round Russian or Hungarian, and 25-round Chinese, pinned together with a live round, and the push-through feed path drives cartridges straight into the chamber. The RPD uses a long-stroke gas piston and fires from an open bolt with a flapper-locking bolt head. The cyclic rate is about 650 rounds per minute. Barrels are fixed rather than quick change, and a 3-position gas regulator addresses normal and fouled conditions. Furniture is wood, a folding bipod sits under the barrel, and ejection is downward. On the line, doctrine emphasizes short bursts to manage heat because of the non-quick change barrel. The rear sight ladder is marked to 1,000 meters, though practical employment matches other intermediate cartridge LMGs at typical squad ranges. The mechanism is widely regarded as rugged and straightforward to service. Chrome-lined bores and chambers resist corrosion in adverse climates. Variants include late-pattern guns with a folding, non-reciprocating charging handle, and a feed port dust cover that doubles as a feed ramp, as well as foreign production such as China's Type 56 and Poland's licensed versions. Modern commercial offerings, including U.S. semi-auto builds and DS Arms updated carbines, keep the design present with contemporary furniture and rails. Fennec Kriss Vector. The Vector family entered limited production in 2009 after development by Kriss USA, formerly TDI, built around Renault Curbrat's Super V delayed blowback mechanism, instead of directing the bolt's mass rearward alone. The Vector's bolt and inertia block travel downward behind the magazine well, changing the recoil vector to reduce muzzle rise during automatic fire. Factory chamberings include 9.19-45 auto, 10mm auto, 40S and W, 357 SIG, and a mechanically different .22 LR variant that uses straight blowback. Select fire SMGs cycle around 1/200 rounds per minute, while semi-auto carbines and pistols adhere to civilian formats. The two-piece architecture pins apart much like an AR, which simplifies cleaning. As with all PCCs, reliability hinges on correct magazines and healthy springs. The use of mainstream Glock patterns aids sourcing and service. In use, the Vector excels at very fast, controllable strings at close range. Effective distances cluster in the 50 to 70-yard envelope for SMG-length barrels, with 16-inch carbines stretching that reach without changing the cartridge's pistol caliber limits. Adoption has been niche but real, including police and military units in Bangladesh, Thailand, and Panama. Civilians see it across CRB, SBR, and SDP configurations. OTS-9 Scorpion SA-VZ-61. The Scorpion began as Miroslav Rybar's design in 1959 for a compact automatic weapon that bridged the role between a service pistol and a full-size submachine gun. Standardization as the SA-VZ-61 followed in 1961, with production at Česká Zbrojovka Uherský Brod from 1963 to 1979. Modern manufacture resumed in 2009 under Czech Small Arms, and Zastava license built variants for export. Standard chambering is 3.2 auto with 10 and 20 round curved magazines. Prototype and limited run calibers included 3.80 auto, 9.18 and 9.19, generally with straight magazines. With 32 auto, the practical envelope is close quarters, a handgun-centric range profile that prioritizes controllability over reach. A closed bolt, straight blowback action keeps the package compact. Its telescoping bolt partially shrouds the short barrel, and a rate-reducing mechanism in the pistol grip trims the cyclic rate to roughly 850 rounds per minute. The stock is a simple top-folding wire unit. Sights are open with a flip rear, and ejection is upward. As issued, the gun was intended for drivers, armored vehicle crews, staff, security forces, and special units who needed an automatic more manageable than a pistol but more compact than a carbine. It appears across a wide range of conflicts, from Vietnam to the Balkan Wars, and also in criminal incidents that brought it to public attention. Upward ejection complicates prone work, but the simple blowback system and few parts make it easy to keep running. Civilian and semi-auto offerings exist, depending on jurisdiction, and part support continues due to the long production history. In contrast to game portrayals that often treat it like a broad-spectrum 9mm SMG with large magazines. The most common reel pattern is .32 auto with modest capacities and a role firmly in the PDW machine pistol niche rather than as a stand-in for a carbine. Spectre sights, Spectre M4. Italy's sights Spectre M4 arrived in the 1980s as a compact, closed-bolt submachine gun emphasizing controllability and high on-board ammunition. Production ran from 1984 to 2001, with a brief continuation in Switzerland. Chamberings included 9.19 as the primary offering and alternatives in 9.21, 40S and W, .45 auto. Two magazine styles defined the system: conventional 30-round boxes and a distinctive 50-round 4-column casket magazine. Even with its simple action, the Spectre fires from a closed bolt to improve first-shot accuracy and reduce signature compared to open-bolt contemporaries. The cyclic rate sits around 850 rounds per minute. The compact steel-stamped receiver accepts a top-folding stock, and later packages offered rails and a vertical foregrip. Its effective range centers on urban distances, roughly 150 meters, with the emphasis on controllability and compact carry. Adoption was limited, with appearances in conflicts such as the Lebanese Civil War and the Balkan Wars, and later in private security use. The proprietary 4-column magazine is a core feature and a potential weak point if damaged. Otherwise, reliability is solid under normal conditions. Collectors appreciate the Spectre's engineering and its unusual magazine technology. Compared to the MP5 Uzi and Beretta M12 of its era, it offers closed bolt shooting in a lighter package with higher potential capacity, trading the MP5's roller, delayed lineage for simpler manufacturing. Swordfish Vektor CR21. Denel's CR21, combat rifle for the 21st century, was a late 1990s effort to modernize South Africa's service rifle inventory. Internally, it borrowed from the R4, a Galil-derived, AK-influenced long-stroke piston system, and encased those mechanics in a polymer bullpup chassis that shortened overall length without sacrificing barrel length. The South African National Defence Force did not adopt it, and production amounted to roughly a few hundred rifles for trials and export demonstrations, with small batches sent to Peru and Venezuela. Chambered in 5.56R45, the CR21 used 20 and 35-round magazines compatible with the R4/Galil family, simplifying ammunition and magazine supply for potential adopters. The action remained the reliable long-stroke piston with a rotating bolt, but the new shell introduced fixed right-side ejection and limited ambidexterity. A non-powered integral 1x optic with a fiber optic reticle was standard in many configurations. The bullpup layout achieved an overall length just under 30 inches, while keeping an 18-inch barrel, preserving muzzle velocity and effective range comparable to other 5.56 rifles. The cyclic rate was around 700 rounds per minute. Users noted that while the system retained the R4's mechanical durability, the polymer shell constrained accessory mounting, and the trigger feel reflected typical bullpup compromises. Maintenance demands mirrored its R4 lineage, though deeper disassembly was less convenient because of the monocoque shell. Spare parts were never abundant due to the short production run, and aftermarket support is minimal. In comparison with the contemporary Steyr AUG and later Tavor, the CR21 offered similar bullpup advantages, but lacked the large-scale procurement and iterative refinement that mature bullpup programs enjoy. Game identities often present it as a high ROAF burst rifle. Actual CR21s are select fire with conventional auto and semi modes and a rate closer to 700 revolutions per minute. FAR 5.56 FAMAS F1 G2. France's FAMAS began in the late 1960s under General Paul Telly, with prototypes emerging by 1971 and adoption of the F1 in 1978 to replace the MAS 49/56 and MAT 49. Unlike gas-operated peers, the FAMAS uses lever-delayed blowback within a bullpup layout. The F1 pattern was optimized around 55-grain 5.56 ammunition with a 112 twist and used a proprietary 25-round magazine. Typical velocities sit around 3,000 feet per second from the FAMAS's 19.2-inch barrel, and the cyclic rate is notably high, often cited between 900 and 1,100 rounds per minute. Construction paired a steel receiver with fiberglass furniture. The rifle's integrated 22mm muzzle device launched rifle grenades, and a folding bipod supported prone fire. Selector and burst controls are unconventional by modern AR standards, reflecting the design's unique evolution. In the field, the long barrel inside a compact frame delivers reach that belies the bullpup's size, with practical point, target work out to several hundred yards. Lever-delayed extraction puts a premium on ammunition within the intended spec, especially on early F1 rifles. France's move to the G2 and then to the HK 416F reflects the broader pressures of NATO standardization in both magazines and ammunition. Operational deployments ranged from Lebanon and the Gulf War to Afghanistan and the Sahel. Among its peers, AUG SA-80 and later Tavor, the FAMAS is unusual for its delayed blowback mechanism and deep integration with rifle grenade